Are you dreaming about retiring and living life on your own terms? Trust me, you are not alone. But unfortunately, only a small amount of people are actually able to achieve this dream. And that's unfortunate. Right now in America, only about 38% of people retirement accounts is on track to allow them to actually retire at age 65. In 2016 to 2022, only 11% of people were able to retire between the ages of 55 and 60. And to make things even worse, only 2% of people were actually able to retire early in their 40s. So trust me, retiring early may seem easy, but it actually takes a ton of planning and a ton of discipline to be able to reach this dream. Luckily, in this video, I'm going to share with you my plans and goals on how I'm going to retire early. We're going to walk you through it step by step, and hopefully by the end of this video, you are also going to be able to create an individual plan for yourself to retire early. So let's dive into the video. So my personal plan was a 4-part plan of how I'm going to achieve 4 different goals. And first goal that I want to achieve is how I'm going to eliminate my debt. The next goal is how I'm going to cover health insurance in my retirement years. Then I wanted to talk about how I'm going to bridge the gap between when I retire early and when I actually hit retirement age. And then I think about, okay, well, how much am I actually going to invest in my retirement funds? Now, this kind of varies between person to person because you have to think about the particular lifestyle you want to live, how much money it's going to take for you to live, and when's your target goal in which you want to retire. So the first thing you have to do is calculate your retirement number. And that can be done in a variety of ways, and that's something we're going to talk about a little later in the video. But then you also want to factor in things like life expectancy, your personal health, and how much health care you're going to actually pay for. So you got to take all of these things into consideration when you are calculating your retirement number. But make sure you have a specific number in mind. My personal number is going to be $2 million in my retirement account. And having that $2 million is going to allow me to withdraw about 4% of my account, and that's going to equal about $80K a year. Now, $80K a year is enough for me, but is that enough for you? Is that enough to maintain your lifestyle? But remember, that $80K is going to be your spending money once you've already eliminated all your debt. So the first thing you need to do is calculate your financial independence number. Now, I included 4 things when I was thinking about my independence number, and that's going to be how I can eliminate my debt, how I can cover all my health insurance when I retire, the gap money I'm going to need for when I retire early until I can reach my retirement accounts, and how much I'm going to consistently put into my retirement accounts. So this is going to vary from person to person. It's going to depend on your lifestyle. It's going to depend on how you're going to be living when you are retired. Now, there are some key and essential factors you have to take into consideration. Make sure you think about life expectancy. How long you're going to be retired and how long you're going to have to live off of that money. And think about your personal health. Do you need a lot of health insurance? And are you going to be taking frequent visits to the hospital? These are some of the things you need to consider when calculating this number. So, my goal is to have $2 million in my retirement account by the time I retire early. So if I take 4% off of that, I will be able to live off about $80K a year. That's enough for me. But will that be enough for you? It may not be. Make sure you calculate your expenses so you can understand your individual financial independence number. So the first thing you need to do when starting on your financial independence journey and trying to retire early is build an emergency fund. I personally like to keep 3 to 6 months of my expenses in my bank account for emergencies. And now, when I'm getting closer to retirement, I'm going to push that up to 18 to 24 months. Just in case the market take a turn, I can live off my emergency fund instead of having to live off my investment interest. Now, building an emergency fund is going to be your safety net, and you need it. It's important. Now, it is also important to become debt-free. But if you don't have an emergency fund prior to paying off your debts, every time emergency come up, all you're going to do is reach for a credit card and increase your debts. So make sure you have that emergency fund so you can cover anything that comes up. Car repairs, house repairs, going to the hospital unexpectedly. That emergency fund is going to save you from going into more debt. So the next thing you need to do is calculate your financial independence number. And people normally follow two rules when it comes to this. They either follow the 4% rule or the 25x rule. So the 4% rule is suggesting that you're going to live off 4% of your portfolio. So what does that look like? Okay, so let's say if you want to live off $50,000 a year, what would you need? So you need to take that $50,000 and divide it by 0.04. So if you did that, you would get about $1.25 million in your portfolio. Meaning, if you withdraw 4% of your portfolio each year, you'll be able to live off $50,000. And that's excellent. Now the flip side of that is understanding how much your expenses are going to cost you each year and multiplying that by 25. That's the 25% rule. So what you would do is, let's say if your expenses was that $50,000, you would times it by 25, and then essentially you still get that $1.25 million. So in the end, they come out to about the same, but one is based off how much you're going to be saving, and the other is based off how much you're going to be spending per year. The important thing is you understand how much you need to take care of yourself per year, and you are able to project that out over your retirement. Make sure you are able to calculate your financial independence number so you can have a precise plan on how much money you need to be putting away to retire early. So after we've figured out our financial independence number, the thing we're going to do next is eliminate debt. And trust me, to truly achieve financial independence, you have to be able to eliminate all the debts you have. Because as soon as you eliminate your debts, the more money you can invest in your future, which is going to get you closer to retiring early. So, how do we attack this? There are three main methods of getting rid of debt, and they're all pretty significantly different. One is to consolidate debt, two is the snowball method, and three is the avalanche method. So what are the differences between these three? The first one is the one I did, and that's consolidating debt. So what I did was I looked around at the promotions and I found a credit card that would allow me to merge all of the credit cards that I had and put them on one credit card at a 0% interest rate for 2 years. So I got together all my accounts, I merged them into that one credit card, and I paid off all of those debts in 2 years. Now, this may work for some people, but not others. If you had the income to pay it off in 2 years, it's excellent. It works wonderful because you're going to be paying 0% interest. But if you don't have the capacity to pay those debts off, you may not want to go down this road. You may want to think about the other two methods. The next method is going to be the snowball method. Now this one is more about habits and small successes rather than paying overall less money. So what you do in the snowball method is you take all of your debts and you look at the smallest debt first. And you pay off that small amount first. And what this does is it gives you a small win. And then you go to the next biggest amount and the next biggest amount. And then you pay them all in that order from smallest to largest. So this is more about habits, because once you see yourself close an account and you no longer have debt, you're excited. It keeps you enthusiastic about going and eliminating the rest of that debt. So maybe this method will work for you if you need small successes in order to keep your journey going. The avalanche method is a little bit different. So what you do is you take all your debts, you line them up, and you look at the one that has the highest interest rate. So this method is going to save you more money over time because you are going to pay off any debts that have extremely high interest rates, and then you're going to work your way down. The only negative part about this method is, let's say if your account that has the highest interest rate is $50,000, you may not see yourself closing an account for 1, 2, 3 years because it takes somebody a long amount of time to pay off that $50,000. So you're not going to get small wins over time like the snowball method. So think about how you're going to eliminate debt. You can use any of these methods as long as you get it done. So the next thing I focused on after eliminating my debts was looking into my retirement accounts. Me personally, I went with the 401k because that is the retirement account that my company matched. They gave me 50% on the dollar for every dollar that I put in, up to 8%. Meaning, if I put in 8%, they would give me an extra 4%, making that 12%. Now, this is where my personal plan kind of differs from other people's, because I do not max out my 401k, and I do this intentionally. So my goal is to have $1 million in my 401k by the time I'm 50. And then from 50 to 60, I wouldn't invest any more money, but just off of the magic of compound interest, that $1 million is going to turn into about $2 million. That's going to be enough for me on the back end to cover all of the things I need from when I'm 59 on up. And that's beautiful. I'm going to use the rest of that money that I don't invest in my 401k into my future, but in just a different way. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the video. How I plan on getting that 1 million is, let's just say I make 100k to make the numbers easier. If I put in a 16% and my company gives me that 4%, that means I'm going to be putting 20% in per year. That's about $20,000 if you're making 100k. If you put that $20,000 in a low cost index fund over the next 20 years, that's going to get you close to $1 million. And that is where I'm going to stop investing in my retirement fund. And you might be thinking, well, why are you going to stop investing? Because all of my 401k money is not truly my money until I turn 59 and a half. When I retire early, I'm not going to be able to touch any of that money unless I want to incur penalties. And I don't want to do that. So I'm putting just enough money in there to carry me through the back end of my retirement. So now I have my specific number I want to put in my retirement account. The next thing I'm going to do is focus on my health insurance. Trust me, health insurance can get expensive when you retire. Sometimes when you get older, you start to see yourself going to the hospital a little bit more than you would go to in your younger years. So how are you planning on paying for this? In my individual plan, I am going to enroll in a high deductible insurance plan. And what that allowed me to do, because I've been already doing this for many years now, is sign up for the health savings account. Now there is a limit of $4,100, but you can invest that money every single year into the stock market. So let's say if you took that $4,100 and you projected over 20 years in that low cost index fund, that money would turn to over $200,000 that you can pay for any of your medical bills tax free in your retirement years. So if you're going to enroll in that high deductible plan, you get your health insurance account. That means that you can invest all of that money and have an account that's going to pay for all of your premiums when you are retired. And this is going to be crucial because you don't want to touch your retirement money or your gap money, your brokerage money in order to pay for this health insurance. You want to have a plan for that. So make sure you're investing in your HSA, or if you're not already invested, make sure you sign up and do some research about it, because that's the perfect way to pay for your health insurance when you are retired. The last part of my plan is to invest in a brokerage account. This account may be the most important part of the plan because it's the only account that you can use to retire early with. All the rest of the accounts are pretty much a partnership with the government. And that partnership is going to say you can't touch any of that money until you are 59 and a half. So if you want to retire when you're 40 or 50, what are you going to do? You have to have a bridge account. And my brokerage account is that account for me. I hope to have about $1.5 million by the time I retire in that account. And then I'm going to withdraw 4% off of that account until I can combine that money with my retirement accounts. So if I have that 1.5 and I have the 2 million in my retirement accounts, that'll be 3.5 when I reach 60. And all of that money combined is going to allow me to successfully retire, and not just retire, but retire in comfort. So that's my plan in retiring early. So that's my plan. What I did was I calculated my financial independence number, so I know exactly how much I want to have in retirement. I then went and eliminated all of my debts to become debt free. I started focusing on how much I want to put in my retirement accounts. I made sure I had a way to pay for all of my health insurance in my retirement years. And last but not least, I'm consistently investing in that brokerage account. Doing all those things are going to guarantee you are going to be able to join that 2% of people that retire early. Hopefully, this plan makes sense to you. And if you think that I should add things to this plan, or maybe you already have a plan that you want to share with me, make sure you leave it in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.